Colin Jones, John Skeet, welcome to Rapallo. How are you finding the weather and the Italian Riviera?
As good as you promised.
So you might come back again?
For sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking over the Cinque Terre down there, and maybe if the Mithril share price goes high enough, then you could park a boat in there in the future.
Yeah, I've already picked the spot anyway. Yeah.
Good. So I'm Simon Catt from Arlington. Colin Jones, Technical Advisor to Mithril, John Skeet, CEO. Thank you for coming. Looking forward to hearing from you tomorrow as well in session with the investors. Where is Mithril on the discovery curve today for either of you?
Well, really, we're just getting started. We've done about 37,000 meters. We started drilling in a what looked like a very good place to start in the district where there were some historic mines and already a little bit of past drilling. So we've focused on that, have demonstrated that this district can provide good high grade, high quality resources. But now that we've done a lot more mapping and sampling along strike from that area, we've just flown the LiDAR. We can see that the mineralization is far more extensive than we first thought, even though we thought it was pretty extensive then. And so really, when you look at it on a district scale perspective, we've really only tested about less than 5% of what we've got to get on with there. So.
I think, John, you drilled a bit less than 40,000 meters into the property in total. If you compare it to your better known Mexican former job when you were Director of Projects at Palmarejo, where does Mithril Copperquin's project sit versus that journey at Palmarejo on the discovery progression?
I guess it's really sitting at the start. I mean, Palmarejo developed very, very rapidly because there was a couple of structures there that were very clear. It was a drive-up drill target. We were able to get 7 rigs on there very quickly, and all of that happening into a rapidly increasing gold price and effectively a mining boom.
Right.
So that got going very quickly just because there was capital available and we were able to. We had some very clear targets there. No one expected it to be as big as it is. And
how big is it, John?
It's we ended up with 3 million ounces gold equivalent by the time Core took over, and we found 2 other deposits there. That looked like they were going to shape up pretty well. They've all been mined out now, and Core has probably got around, from what they've actually produced and what they've got in reserves and resources, around 4 million ounces of gold and 240 million ounces of silver. There was no drilling there in 2004 when they first started. So Copperquin has got a little bit of a start, but it's in a similar stage of when we first went into that. We've got some drilling there, we've got a high grade resource as a head start, but really as a district scale property, we're right at the beginning.
So could Copperquin be as big as Palmarejo?
It's got the geometry to be as big as that. And,
right.
The difference with Copperquin is and we don't really have an explanation for it, is the gold grades are much higher relative to the silver. So they're both predominantly silver districts, by far the most abundant precious metal there, but it's the gold grades that are really spectacular at Copperquin that make it so attractive.
How much higher is the Copperquin gold to the Palmarejo gold grade?
Just on that, if you look at the average on that resource that we got there now, the maiden resource, it's about double the grade of, relative to the silver.
Right.
So.
And Colin, you've been around a few mines in your life, mate. Why did you, in fact, you're the reason that we're all sitting here, because it was your insistence when we met at the pub in Toronto in March of PDAC of 2023 that this thing could be really big. Why did you choose Copperquin? What attracted you to the project?
Well, as John mentioned, there is a high-grade resource there that was drilled out very quickly, and it was essentially the first target that was drilled by Mithril, and there are a number of other targets that potentially could result in very similar resources, if not larger. And these targets are associated with an epithermal system at high level, which gives a lot of depth potential, and it extends for at least 10 kilometres east-west up a major valley. And we know, as John mentioned, we flew the LiDAR and we thought there were something like 75 workings on it. It turns out there's close to 300. And so it's a large, very high grade, long-lived, multi-phase epithermal system that's pretty much intact, with very little exploration. In fact, really, apart from the resource area, it's hardly any exploration at all. So in terms of potential, both depth potential and number of targets potential, and the grades that we're already seeing, I think it's a fantastic opportunity in terms of these styles of deposits.
And so I think on Friday on the Australian Stock Exchange, Mithril became a meme stock. It traded about 15 million shares, went up at 80%. And John, I think you drilled 7 meters at almost 4 ounces per tonne gold equivalent.
Yeah.
Is that, given that you mentioned that you're early on in the discovery curve, are we going to see more of those bonanza grades? And can you predict where they are?
There's indications from the sampling we've done in the historic mines and workings, for sure. So there's like, on the other side of the valley, up at a higher elevation at Las Brucas, El Peru area, for instance, we've got some very high-grade samples there in the old workings. And so clearly in the historic records as well, these mines were, as they termed it, when they were in production, they were in bonanza when they were producing these exceptional high grades. So. We're going to find a lot more of this type of mineralisation. There's certainly indications of it anyway.
Right. Yeah. And you're listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. I think you've flagged to investors that you're going to move to Toronto as well.
Yeah, so we should have that finished in the next few weeks. Everything's been ticked off. We've had a welcome letter from the TSXV.
Yeah.
So we've got a conditional listing. So there's a couple of little things to tick off there, and registrations and so on, but everything's in process, and we will have that finished over the coming weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And Colin, in terms of where the gold and the silver come from, what are you thinking about how it's formed to help inform where you drill next to find more high grade gold and silver?
In terms of where to drill next, we have been drilling the resource area and successfully extending that mainly down dip and a little bit along strike. We've also drilled another structure that's fairly close by, that's actually hosted in an intrusion, which is slightly different. We've got 3 other high priority areas that we want to undertake a lot of more detailed mapping and sampling on in order to generate drill targets. These areas are all have a number of underground workings with production. They are structurally complex. They are high up in the stratigraphy into the rhyolites just above the andesite volcanic package, and so we have those 3 priority ones, and we'll be developing those up into drill targets that will be pretty similar to the resource area that we're drilling right now.
Okay. So we've currently got the resource, I think publicly Mithril's on record of that the 500,000 ounce resource could double in the first quarter of 2025, but Colin, your point is that these other 2 or 3 high priority targets, they are at least as prospective as the existing resource area, is that right?
Yes, yeah, certainly that's true, yes.
Yeah. So it's back to that point that we're super early on in the discovery.
Yeah, I think you need to realise really that apart from a lot of drilling done at the resource area to get to where we are now with that, there's been very little done elsewhere. There's first pass mapping in drainages that are easily accessible. There's been first pass mapping and sampling in most of the larger underground workings, and there have been some scout holes drilled at those underground workings, some of them with really good results and some not. We have shown quite clearly that with detailed mapping and sampling, you are able to, 1, find more workings, and 2, find more structures.
Right.
And we've shown that quite clearly in a couple of places now. So we're quite confident that if we maintain that level of detailed work, we can generate some really good drill targets at these other areas.
And I think Mithril was drilling 8,000 or 9,000 metres this year, John.
That's right.
Where are we on that count at the moment?
We're just under halfway through on that program.
Okay.
We're going to take a break for a few weeks, do some necessary rig maintenance, and that'll give us time to get the assays in and look at everything and just rejig the drill plan.
Okay.
So we've got some useful information. As Colin mentioned, we've been continuing with our mapping and sampling, so we will continually to tweak the drill plan and make sure we use those 5,000 metres to our best advantage. So
we'll expect a steady stream of news then from the assays from that drill program as it proceeds.
Yeah, we'll have a good steady flow of news of assays between now and early next year.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a brand new Mexican government. Is there anything that we should know about the new lady, Claudia Sheinbaum, I believe her name is, compared to AMLO on the way out?
Well, I think the sort of early signs are that, whereas AMLO has been, quite hostile towards the mining sector, and there hasn't been any granting of new concessions during his term. We expect, just what we're hearing, we expect that's going to change.
Right.
And there's certainly Mexico has a very good, regulatory framework for getting mines approved and so on, and I expect that's going to continue, and they'll keep improving that and making companies, do their environmental studies and impact studies and so on, to the high level that we've already been doing them. And each project will be assessed on its own merits. I don't think there'll be any blanket sort of commentary towards mining that'll affect everyone. It'll just be, I think, the good projects, that have been managed properly and studied properly will get into production.
Good.
So,
Probably another point to make on that is that up to this point at least, we don't see an open pit mine developing at the moment.
Right.
So with these grades and with these structures that we have, and the very beneficial topography that we have, then I think underground mining is going to be the way to go. So I think in terms of getting things permitted and public perception and so on, that'll be useful.
Gotcha. Colin, you've worked on dozens, maybe hundreds of mining projects around the world over your, how many years have you been doing this for?
Since 1981, whatever, whenever that, how long ago that
So we're
is.
pushing,
43 years.
Yeah, heading for a half century.
Yeah.
In terms of the scale of the opportunity and the grade, have you worked on anything that has as much upside as Copperquin?
In all honesty, probably the grade not. Certainly I've worked on projects that have similar potential in terms of size, but not many. This is a large epithermal system, but yes, some of the grades that have been reported from this round of drilling that we've just done and the previous drilling that Mithril did to get to the resource itself, those grades are pretty special. I have not directly worked on a project with grades like that.
Right. And John, maybe a final question for you. Palmarejo was a massive success. You sold it to Kerr for $1 billion in 2007-8. Is Copperquin potentially as big? You mentioned the gold grades that doubled. Is potentially as big as Palmarejo?
The indications are there. Certainly, if you look at all the widespread historic mines and workings all over the district, we've probably got a better head start in that regard. The workings weren't that extensive at Palmarejo when we started there. No one expected it to be as big as it is, and really, that resource there at Palmarejo that we had when Cord took over was, it was like the tip of the iceberg, and that's pretty much what we've got now. What we've got there at Refugio, it really is the tip of the iceberg. There's a reason why there's all these. Even with those, I guess there's two parts of the story, even with those near surface or top of the system deposits that we've got all across the district that we may get to, a few million ounces ultimately, there's something big underlying of that. That'd be a fair enough comment, Colin. There's something big that's created all that and driving all that, and that's probably the jewel that
the mother lodes down below.
Yeah.
That would a standard conventional understanding of an epithermal system, low sulfidation epithermal system like that would suggest that there is a major structure or two driving this whole 10-kilometre system,
Right.
and in order to get these mineralising fluids so high up in the stratigraphy.
Right. Interesting. Gentlemen, thank you for coming to Rapallo. We're excited to go on the journey with you before you come back here again next year.
Yes. Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Simon.
support, and thanks for being here. Yeah.
Thank you.